Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Fits here in Blackstone, Virginia, the center of the world. Yes, where everything fits when you're at the center, but we're always not at the center, but we're always creating the center. We're always discovering unity. We're always discovering when everything fits. So this is the ambiguity of Zen, is that it is both destruction and creation at the same time. So let's talk about Killing Eve. The title of this talk is The Zen of Killing Eve. So I'm just going to jump in here. I don't know where it's going to go, but I just finished watching the series. It's on Hulu, Killing Eve, and a friend of mine told me about it, and saw how she loved this character, this Villanelle, and so I subscribed to Hulu. You get it free for the first month, so I'll drop it after the first month. But anyway, so it's 4 seasons, and it's captivated me. I couldn't wait for 5 o'clock to get my scotch. I'll get my scotch and watch a movie. And so we've been watching it, 2 episodes a day. Finally, we got to the end of the episode, and I'm left with sadness and a joy, which is a contradiction. And I've been writing about this, when you're left with, watch a movie or something, and you're left with this nagging feeling, that it's just, that there's something more to it. There's something more. That's great, because that means that there's a contradiction embedded in the movie that is generating insight. This is a great art, and movies are art. Contain a contradiction, and that containment is kind of like a battery, that contains positive and negative energy or current, and and you can turn your lights on with it. In other words, the battery contains an ambiguity, a contradiction between positive and negative, right? It contains that as one. And so it's like vibrating. It's just like, I want to get out. I'm potential. I want to get out. I want to be, but it's contained. You see, it's contained. It wants to get out, but it's contained. So if you plug that battery into a circuit, that energy is useful. It's your energy. You get to turn on the lights, you see. So a great movie, great art, contains a contradiction or an ambiguity, and it can turn you on. In other words, it can give you the same insight that the artist had when he created the art. There's a transmission of the artist's art, or the artist creates art in order to contain the ambiguity or the contradiction in their nature. And so they create the art that contains the contradiction in their nature, this ambiguity, and they put it in a bottle called art. And then you come along and you can either say, oh, that's just nothing, forget about it, you just pass it by. But if you plug into it, you get to plug into the same insight or creative energy of the artist. And so that's what I call a metaphor. This metaphor of the art then is like a bottle of energy that was in the artist, and he created the art in order to contain his own ambiguity, and then you can use the art to release your potential, you see. So anyway, this Killing Eve is really about, I wrote about it, so this will be posted with my talk here. But it's about the ambiguity of the character Villanelle. Villanelle. She's the villain. She's the psychotic assassin. It's kind of like, a Tarantino movie where violence is almost choreographed. It's almost a dance. It's not like real violence, which it's metaphorical violence. So you get to transcend the duality of violence. So this whole, it's very difficult to explain, except that the Killing Eve is an interesting title in itself. The movie has two protagonists, or two women, Villanelle and Eve, who is kind of like a sleuth or detective who was in search of Villanelle as from MI5 or whatever, because she was an assassin for hire, and so she's like in search of Villanelle, and yet there's a strange attraction between the two. So there's this coming and going back and forth between Eve and Villanelle until the climax of the end. But it reminded me of Plato's creative myth. Plato had a creation myth, just like the Bible. And the creation myth of Plato was that original man, was androgynous. He was male and female, 4 arms, 4 legs, everything. And the gods were jealous of the humans' power, so they had Zeus divide them in half. So man became divided into opposites, so he would spend his life, or her life, trying to find their opposite. Well, like in Killing Eve, so Villanelle is a lesbian, and this relationship is a relationship of not opposites like male and female, but a relationship of identity. The other is a perfect reflection of you, So there's this tension, attraction, and repulsion between the two. Anyway, the movie contained, for me, the movie was successful because I'm still thinking about it. It's kind of like an apple. It's appropriate of Eve, who bit the apple, but the apple of art, or a movie like this, contains a contradiction, so that when the apple is always fresh, so that if you bite the apple, you never consume it and go on and say, well, that was a good movie, what else is next? The apple remains fresh. So every time you come to that apple, it's fresh, and you take a new bite. You never get to the core. You never exhaust it, you see. It keeps on giving apple juice. You see what I mean? And so great art, or yourself, In other words, each of us is a contradiction. Each of us contains or tries to contain an ambiguity. So if you look at your life story, which is kind of like a movie, and if you look at your life as a movie, you'll see there's a contradiction in it that drives your history. So you keep trying to contain the ambiguity. When you contain the ambiguity, like there's an ambiguity. You desire a new car. There's a contradiction here. And you get the new car, you go, but now you want something else. So the apple keeps going on, You never eat the apple. You never arrive at the apple is always is always new. So this contradiction, you see, is kind of like generates our history. I know it was with me. It generated my spiritual path. It generated my search for unity. It generated my search for rest or aha, or it generated my search for everything fits. You see. So when nothing fits, there's a contradiction. And you want everything to fit. So this nothing fits is our self-generating energy. Nothing fits generates a drive to make everything fit. But unless we go into the contradiction, unless we go into the original apple, unless we take a bite of that original apple, we're always driven to more and more contradictions in our life. We never come to a place where everything fits. But you see, everything fits is not a place, or it's not fixed. Everything fits is always a discovery. It's always aha. It's always I see. So this is the contradiction between everything fits and nothing fits. So in order to get beyond Eve, so the idea came with in this story was that Killing Eve, it's a very interesting title, is who is Eve and who's being killed? Who is Eve and who is being killed, you see? Anyway, I'll leave you with that question. So watch the series. Thanks for dropping in.